Javi, it's super nice to finally connect with you and start this conversation because we've been planning this for a long time and it's finally happening. So I'm super excited to have you here.
Me too, Milena. I'm really happy to be here. And thank you so much for offering this space to talk, discuss, have an amazing conversation about, we don't know really what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
About consciousness and awakening and awareness, I guess, because that's something that both of us have been working towards for a very long time. And we kind of share some of the similar steps along our journeys. But I think one of the steps along the journey is once we start realizing that we create our reality and that one of the best ways to do it is to do it consciously so that we decide. The next kind of logical question that we start asking ourselves is, well, how do we do that? What are the mechanics behind it? What are the different steps? And I think that's one area that you have focused on so that you can really break down the mechanics in simple steps for people, and you can start sharing that with them. Correct?
I love it. Yeah, I love how you describe, a little bit of my work or what I've chosen to put my focus on. It's actually that, it's to break the mechanics. How does it work? And yeah, let's look into that.
So I know that you have a school, we can say at a school, and you work primarily with Spanish speakers because you work out of Chile, and then maybe you've done some work in Bali as well. You can tell us more about it. But tell us about what the school is about. Is it just online? Do you work with people on site? And kind of what are the different programs and courses that you have, and what exactly are they focused on?
Oh my God, I love it. Thank you. So the school is called School of Conscious Manifestation. And its vision is to support people on consciousness and how to create their reality consciously. If you want to create your reality consciously, necessarily you need to look at yourself. So it's a really good carrot, right? For self-transformation or expansion of awareness. So to tell people, you can actually have everything you want, and you can manifest the dream, your life dream, the dream of your life. There you go. So what we do is, currently we have a program, a 5-month program, where students have access to an online platform, and they can study from the beginning in ascending way how to manifest their life consciously. So we start with looking at our possible resistances to change. How to look into that, how motivated are we to create a change in our lives. Then we move on into the mechanic of conscious manifestation. So how does thought influence reality? How does emotions influence reality? Words influence reality, intent, choice, things like that, belief systems. Then we move on into what is it that we want? And this is a whole module on connecting and to that deep wanting. What is it that we really want? So here is when we make a difference between the, you want a car, for example. Okay, that's how we call it, the shape of things. But why do you want a car? How do you want to feel when you have that car? So basically it's understanding that everything we want is how we want to feel related to that thought of what we want to have. So it's having that clarity. Once we have clarity on that dream, or that it's connected to your joy, you have your first step kind of thing. Right? You're connected to your joy. You really know what you want. Brilliant. Amazing. Then we move on into blockages. We need to understand what is stopping us from having that we want. And mainly we discuss about fears and belief systems. So we learn about processing, we learn how to identify our belief systems, and naturally we will identify everyone else's belief systems. So you start seeing, at this point, after 2 to 3 months you've taken this course, you start really literally realizing so many things. It's mind-blowing. People start like, oh my God, I'm waking up to a whole new reality of how things work. What people say and what people are experiencing, there is a link here. So it's fascinating. Then once you know how to process your blockages and find your blockages, so we have exercises, for example, about lottery, and people are playing the lottery. We have one of the students won an iPad a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of other students won a $2 prize. So it's about learning the dynamics, the internal dynamics that affect our external reality. Then we move on into understanding neurolinguistics and understanding how to ask properly or consciously. You know, when you ask for something but you forgot to say, you know, for example, I want a relationship, and you forgot to say you want that person to be in the same country and he might be somewhere else, you know, you're like, damn, I gotta be a little bit more polished in how I
more specific.
More specific, exactly, more specific on how to ask and where to put my focus. And the last module is about a personal vibration and a conscious design of your life. It's to really design consciously how you want to live your life. What do you want in your life? So this school is to accelerate and support inner transformation, and to give people tools to create a life consciously with accelerated, amazing, beautiful results. That's basically what we're doing here.
Awesome. So it sounds like, and you just summed it up in one sentence at the end, that you use people's desire to create things in life, whether it's a relationship, job, wealth, whatever. But what it actually comes down to is that inner transformation and awakening to how your whole reality is being created and manifested. And it sounds like that conscious manifestation is just very, very closely related to that inner transformation. It doesn't really, one doesn't work without the other.
Absolutely.
And then as I was listening to you, the other thing that came to mind was how in our 3D reality, we strive for things, even if the thing is a job or relationship and all of that. But we don't really focus, or nobody has taught us to focus on that state of being that we want to experience as a result of it. We just focus on the things that we believe are going to bring us that state of being. When in fact, there's a shortcut. You just focus on the state of being, you cultivate that, and bam, everything else just happens all by itself. And
perfectly said.
I wish that I was taught that in school. And I think it's just beyond amazing that you're doing this for a lot of people, because it's a super, super necessary information. One of my dreams was to just completely revamp the education system and have courses for parents so that we start teaching kids from a very early age that that's how reality functions. So that growing up at 5 years old, they can use their abilities and already have that awareness, as opposed to, you know, you are in your 20s or your 30s and you start looking for this type of information and going almost against the flow of everybody else to look for answers.
Absolutely.
So how did that idea come about in you? When do you feel like you had an initial moment of awakening, and at what point did you decide, okay, this is what I want to do?
Okay. You know, this whole awakening thing in my life happened from a really early stage in my life. I had, from the very beginning, from being really young, I had this feeling that there was something else in reality. There was something with reality, right? That was missing. Kind of like, you know what?
You know it's there, but you don't know what it is.
Right. It's like, you have no idea what it is, but it's weird. And that feeling and an inner search, you know, I started to search, actually. I was like, what is this that I'm feeling, that I know? It was a knowing. And I became, like, you could call it a spiritual seeker from a very early age. And I could sense you probably relate to this.
Yes.
Right? Is that
Totally.
thing? Probably yes. So that search brought me to really big awakenings and realizations that, yep, this reality is actually a game. And what I'm actually looking for, and this is my experience, is the awakening of myself.
Yeah.
Right? So having had those experiences and connected to that knowing, when I was around 24, 25 years old, more or less, I happened to see a YouTube video, right? I was asking myself, how can I organize everything I've seen, in a way that it can be...
so that it makes sense.
To myself and to others, I had this impulse to maybe teach this or maybe give this information to other people for some time. So I saw this video of a woman that said that everything she asked to the universe, it would become true. Everything she asked. And I'm like, something made click in myself. I'm like, what is this? I know it's possible. What? I just said, okay, universe, I want to learn. I want to be an expert on conscious manifestation. Boom. That was my first conscious manifestation. Myself. 3 years later, I was teaching.
Wow.
I went through the whole process, and I learned from the most amazing teachers. But mostly I went through my own inner process, and I learned the process from within. And I downloaded, however you want to call it, created methodologists, and that's it. I use conscious manifestation as a tool for creating better lives or supporting inner transformation and awakening. For me, it's a tool.
So if I asked you, what do you do for people in one word? It sounds like that would be, it's not exactly one word, it's more like 2 or 3, but inner transformation and awakening.
Yeah, and I would add support.
And support.
And tools. I like that word, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know how some people say, oh, one day I just had this experience and I awakened and all of a sudden that wisdom poured over me. I was in that whatever blissful state. Did you have a moment like that in your own life? Or did you feel like that was a gradual process of unfolding and just gaining more knowledge as opposed to like one big boom and then all of a sudden you're a different person?
Yeah. I've had both. I've had little booms, as you call them, love them, because actually it feels that way, right? Like maybe I was sitting one day looking at the forest and boom, something happened without me doing anything. I just realized or connected with the love of Gaia, for example. And I'm like, whoa, overwhelmed with this like beyond experience of experiencing something beyond just human, just like something undeniable. And I've had some glimpses of that. When I was 22, though, I did have a huge awakening, like huge one, when I would call it a full awakening, where I went beyond mind and I realized, you could call it nirvana state, maybe. Some people call it enlightenment experience. And when that happens, or in my experience at least, it opened myself to a lot of information and a lot of awakening and knowing, which was overwhelming in many, many ways. Like, such as, for example, seeing that we are all eternal beings, seeing that that your essence is light, it's joy, is the love that you feel is huge, that there are no problems, that the problems are created in the mind. That there is a state beyond duality, that this is a game, that you can see the universe and things like that, and the power that we have that we all have.
Right.
It was huge for me, definitely. And one of the first thoughts was, everything I was looking for was myself. Everything.
Answered one of my, because I was gonna ask, one of my questions would have been one of your biggest aha moments. And I think that's a very important one for people. I say that very often. All we're doing is we're journeying to ourselves.
And
That's
this is
what
a
you've
funny
been
thing,
looking for.
because once you find yourself, you realize you were never not yourself.
Right.
A
You're
paradox,
always
because
there.
you were always there. You get enlightened, but you were always enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, it's a paradox. It actually is.
Yeah.
And it's, I have not found anything, and this is the challenge of realizing that or connecting with that. And then in my case, I chose to be in the mind again for different
Uh-huh.
reasons.
To
I
go
chose,
back to the way you used to before that moment of awakening.
yes, yes.
Why? Why did you choose that?
There were many reasons. One of them was that my physical body was maybe not ready for that. It was a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I mean, it's like, it's overwhelming. And when you're there as if it was something else, but that's not accurate way to
It's
say it.
not a location, it's a state of being, is what you're saying. Yeah, I get
Exactly. It's not outside of you. It's yourself. Uh, it doesn't matter.
it. Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go back. You instantly forget suffering. You instantly, you're in peace beyond peace, love
Mm-hmm.
beyond love. You're
Mm-hmm.
that. You have always been that. You're in eternity because you are eternal. So, no worries. And then you can back, and you're like, oh, damn.
You just answered my question again. I was gonna say, do you ever feel like, darn, I should have stayed there? It's like
Goodness.
Cornwall convinced me to go back to my previous state of being.
I did struggle about that for many years, actually. I
Mm.
struggled with knowing that this was a game, but not being awakened enough to be beyond the game. So
Mm.
I would create a sense of feeling a little bit imprisoned, maybe,
Uh-huh.
which I knew it was not true.
Right.
So it was a little bit of a struggle for some time, and feeling very lonely, because you cannot talk this with anyone. It's like, it's not that
Right.
you go to a therapist and say, well, you know what, this is a game, and I've seen it.
Unless you want to
And
be sent to an institution or something.
you go and be sent to an institution right
Here's the
away.
crazy lady over there.
So I began my quest to find other people that would have had that experience, because it's an undeniable experience. It's more amazing than anything, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, firmly, very like firmly, I would say, but
Mm-hmm.
anything you can have in here, like, you wouldn't trade it for anything, for all
Right.
the gold in the universe.
And you can't really explain it. It's something that you have to experience for yourself.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Totally.
So I know that for me, one of my personal driving forces to look for that was to end suffering, because I realized that I had a very low threshold of pain. I could not tolerate a lot of pain, suffering, and unhappiness. And everywhere around me, I remember I was a child and there were like older people coming and say, oh, we're here to suffer. Life is just difficult and we have to get on with it. And I remember like from the inside wanting to scream. It's like, no, it's not that way. That's not going to be my life. So has it been the same for you? Has one of the major driving forces beyond that search for awakening or for something else to end suffering and to teach ourselves and other people how to stop suffering and exist in a different state of being?
Good question. You know what it reminded me? You know, one of the reasons also, I know I mentioned there were like 4 or 5 reasons why I came back. I really need to quote that because that's not true, right? Was that I had this thought that said, I really want to understand suffering.
Mm.
So that's why I want to go back, because I want to understand suffering. Ridiculous. Don't do that. No. It took me 3 days to realize that's just a program that got triggered. Suffering is just an experience, suffering it doesn't serve us. And I was like, oh, I understand. Damn, that's like, yeah, it doesn't serve us at all. So it's interesting because I was not motivated to transcend suffering. That was not what motivated my search, but the search itself was painful. It was pain. It was this inner pain connected to this inner knowing that there's something else, like that sense of like, that I need to go, I need to find this. What is it? So that was painful. And once you find it, you're like, it exists. It's real. What I knew is real. There is something beyond. Yes. And one other thing that happened, Milena, was that when I woke up, when everyone can wake up, programs went through my heart very, 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 very fast. Those programs that we work every day, to take like 1, 2,
yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm feeling better. Okay, this was like boom, waking up, instant, like a fire machine. It actually felt like that, like that in my heart. And all these, I understood all the programs were being dissolved. I was unplugging from the matrix, actually. So we can do the work of consciously taking everything off, or we can wake up to the truth of our true nature or what we are, and that gets dissolved in itself, kind of thing. That's my experience. That's what I experienced.
So would you say that was one of the hardest decisions that you've ever had to make, or is there another one in life?
The decision that I've had to make that required most will was the choice to go to find out that I didn't know what it was, even if I died. So actually it was the choice of waking up. It was not the choice to come back. It was the choice to wake up.
No matter what.
No matter what. And I was willing to die. And actually did die.
You did?
Yeah, because you actually die. Everything that was, it dies. The perception of separation dies. The ignorance dies.
Who you thought you were dies.
But you wake up to something.
To who you actually are.
Which is amazing. I mean, I cannot even put it in words how amazing we are.
How amazing it is to die, basically.
How amazing it is to maybe be born to the true nature of who we are. Who we are. It's just unbelievable. When we wake up to that, that transcends everything. And this is the essence of my school. This is the essence of, if I could say one phrase and I could die, not that I will, I'm going to say this. It would be, we are all looking for ourselves. And that's it.
It is amazing. One of the things that amazes me is that I kind of have questions in my mind that I want to ask. And as I'm about to kind of logically and fluidly transition onto the next question, you answer it before I've asked the question. And it's like I'm getting goosebumps because that's like the 3rd, 4th, 5th time that it's happened already. And you don't know this because you don't know what questions I had in mind. But as I'm about to just like in my mind transition into that, because it seems like the next logical step, things are just flowing in that direction. You're like, and I'm looking at a question. It's like, if you were to be gone tomorrow, what pieces of advice and wisdom would you give to the people around you? And like, and if I were to die, I would, and it's just another testament to, and like my goosebumps can't even come down. It's how that synchronicity and fluidity functions, because apparently we're connecting it so much more than just the physical level. It feels like we're almost becoming one consciousness and things are flowing. I don't even need to ask you the questions. We're just like having a conversation and I'm sort of asking them in my mind, but not really. And you're already answering them. And then it's like a new discovery for me, because I've had occasional moments when I would do that and the other person would ask the question, or the other way around. But it's like with you, it's just so surprisingly fluid. And it's not like we chat every day and we've practiced this a lot. It's just happening. So I'm like, I almost can't even get over it. So let's sit with that piece of wisdom that you just shared, because I think it's very, very important. What we're really looking for is ourselves. And it's intellectually, we can grasp that idea. It's like, oh, yeah, I get that. But for me, it's been a very interesting process, and I still can't quite figure out how it works. From understanding something here in your mind, and then it kind of drops into your heart, and then you just embody it. You live from that understanding and energy. Do you have any sense of how that actually happens, how that process works, of the information coming from here to you just naturally embodying it all of a sudden?
It's a really interesting question. I cannot say I understand it completely. I can say,
Me too.
yes, it's like people have different experiences. The awakening of self happens in different ways. Some people, it will just happen while you are driving your motorcycle, or you're cooking, or you're looking at a sunset, and it just happens, a spontaneous awakening. Or some people meditate, and while they're meditating, they're doing these techniques and these other, breathing techniques and stuff, and just happens. So sometimes you need a guide. Sometimes it's about like what Buddha did, which was, I will wake up even if my bones
Get
dissolve.
crushed.
Yeah, get crushed and dissolve. That's total will. And there is another path. There might be many, many, many paths, but there's another path, which is surrendering. So mainly there are two paths that I have studied. One is total commitment and will, which was my experience. I will go even if I die. I didn't know I was doing that. I just knew I had to wake up. Something was calling me. I was ignorant to what. And there is this other path of let go, of trust. And in both, you will probably feel you're going to die. So those are the resistances. Either you think you're going to become crazy. That's a fear.
Which to some people you do.
Yeah. It's like that's the resistance. That's the wall. That's the program that is protecting, the awakening kind of thing. I wouldn't say protecting, but stopping.
Preventing us, yeah.
Preventing. We're preventing ourselves from awakening. And the other one is fear of dying. So in one hand, you can be, I'm going to do it even if I die. And on the other hand, you can be, I will trust the unknown.
So which path, because you've studied and kind of experienced, tested both for yourself, did you like better? Which one is the path of least resistance? And do we look for the path of least resistance, or do we look for the harder one? And I think I know your answer, but I do want to bring that up for people, because very often we get pieces of wisdom even on Facebook. When you read, it's like, oh, the beaten path is easy and everybody's done that, but you're a hero if you go the hard way, and if you just do something that nobody else has done before. And it's, how do you see that, those two paths, the one with least resistance and the path of surrender, and the one of plowing through no matter what kinds of difficulties you encounter?
Yeah, it's interesting because I see both as useful. I will explain, because I think we're slightly talking about different things here. But when it comes to awakening, how many times have you had to be with yourself diligent? Like, I'm going to go through this bullshit, boom, and you're using that energy. Right? Plenty of times. And sometimes you're like, I don't know if everything's going to be okay, but I'm going to trust here. I'll just trust. So when it comes to awakening, we use both. When it comes to grow or learning or creating experiences, the new paradigm is all about ease. How can we make it easier? How can we make it more joyful? Less effort.
Right.
That's the difference.
Right. Because I see what you're saying, because very often when we work with people, and I come across the same thing too, is they tell you what they want and they kind of look for help or assistance in doing that. And then you say, okay, do this, and that. And then you ask them if they've done these things. And they're like, well, no, but, and it's that level of commitment. How much do you want to do this? And are you actually willing to take the necessary steps that it takes? And yeah, you're more than welcome to manifest an easier way too, but doing nothing and just saying, well, I know that I need to do that, but how can I do it? How can it just happen all by itself without me being committed to it?
Absolutely. And I think that willingness and commitment, it's key. Because we will encounter resistances. And it's not nice to process your fears and look at the belief systems you have that are limiting and a little bit shitty, and you're like, oh goodness.
It's uncomfortable because it's swimming through unpleasant stuff.
Yes, it feels like swimming through unpleasant stuff. And that's commitment. And that's helping yourself with amazing people that are going through the same. And that can, support you without judgment.
Right. And I think what creates that ease is that level of commitment that we have, that intent. And once your intent is absolutely solid, then you end up not having to go through difficulties and struggle in order to achieve that. Once your level of commitment is absolute and you're saying, I am doing this, not even I'm going to do this, but I am doing this, then all of a sudden I feel like the doors open and you don't have to go through the struggle. It's when your level of commitment is somewhere, maybe I'm doing this and all of that, when doing it, even if you take the steps, it feels a lot more difficult, and then results don't come as easily and they come about a lot more slowly than if you just said, I'm absolutely certain I want to do this. And to me, it feels like some of our struggles in life is because we think we want things and we say we want things that we don't actually are not very important to us. And it's kind of choosing, what do I really want to commit to, and make that a priority. And the stuff that I really don't, it's okay. I don't have to. I can drop them.
One of the key things to manifest, people that are watching this, this is a tip.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to manifest something faster in your life, you want to know what it is?
Absolutely.
Let's be honest with ourselves. Do I really, really want that? Or is it a belief system? Or, it's like, is it that's why it's so important to connect the wanting to your joy. Because joy is something that, yes, you want that. Right. It's a state of being. And with what you're saying about resistances, I mean, manifesting struggle in your life, it's really important to look into our programs related to drama, resistances, effort, and boredom. Yes. It would be boring if it was too easy.
Oh man, when you mentioned that, I was 20 years old, and at some point I had the stupidity of saying, my life is boring. I can't even tell you the drama that ensued after that. It's like, I'm never saying this again. There's many other pleasant, exciting, amazing ways to make your life interesting. So if you feel like your life is boring, don't make the same mistake I did. And say that your life is boring so that you can manifest a ton of drama, because apparently to me that's what it meant at the time, for life not to be boring, without realizing it. And I think at some point I made a promise to myself, I'm going to awaken, I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open, but I don't need the drama. I don't need the drama to push me out of my comfort zone and start looking and discovering whatever it is that I needed to discover. Because I wonder if that's your experience too, how a lot of people need crisis, they need drama or some sort of pain in order to kick them out of their comfort zone and allow them to start looking a little bit farther away from just this, and expanding in awareness.
Yes, it's interesting because we had an experience last weekend when we were studying with students, and there was a group of 20 people, and I asked them to raise their hands if they felt they were embodying abundance and they were okay with things being really, really easy. Only one person
raised their hand.
So I asked her, like, okay, how do you live your life? Has it always been that way for you? And she said, no, it hasn't always been that way for me. I've worked within myself in those belief systems I had about struggling, about drama, about it will be boring if. And how do you live now? Things happen so easily, and it's amazing. I mean, her story is ridiculous. It's amazing. And everything comes to her. The relationships, money. She doesn't have to work now because she has embodied that energy. The rest of the group, like, okay, homework, right? We need to look into that, the appreciation we have on the process. Like, we like it. We don't like things to be too easy because we enjoy the process. Okay, great. Can we enjoy the non-process? Can we enjoy the receiving? Can we enjoy the ease? So valuing that will help us shift that paradigm, I believe.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that's another program that we have. It's like the sweetness comes from the hard work that you put in toward achieving what it is that you want to achieve. And if we're able to put the sweetness somewhere else, then we open ourselves up to the possibility of manifesting things more easily. But speaking of manifestation, and it's before you actually started teaching, I'm wondering, because I had these thoughts and I'm wondering if you had the same things. Did you ever feel like, well, I need to be perfect, I need to have manifested everything that I wanted before I am ready to start sharing with others and teaching others? Because if I'm not perfect, if I haven't manifested everything that I want in my life, then I'm not good enough to be a teacher and share that information with others. I had that very strongly. And how do you overcome this?
First of all, I knew I was really good at looking at identifying belief systems within myself and others. I had been a witness of my own journey of how this information had changed my life, right? And I had a real wanting of giving this information to others. That was connected to my joy. So, for example, I did have this program that said, I am too young to be wise. I won't be seen seriously,
until you reach 73.
Exactly, until I'm over 50. So I had choice, I could wait until I'm 50. I could look older and say, no way. Or I could do, like, you know what? I'm going to just do it. Whatever.
Right.
So that was a belief system right there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was like, what am I good at? What am I certain of? I have already manifested hundreds of stories in my own life. Maybe, you know, maybe I don't have what people believe I should have to prove I can, manifest the life of my dreams. But how do you know that I'm not living the life of my dreams already? In my own paradigm.
Right.
So what I do with my students is that if I haven't manifested something in my life, I share openly, it's like, oh, because I have this resistance yet and I'm working on this. I'm still working through things.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's great because I can learn from my own process and teach that. And we all can learn.
Yeah, you're open and authentic and just as human as everybody else. And it's,
I'm
I
learning.
think, because again you're segueing into my next question would be, what is one thing that you are working toward manifesting right now? What is a challenge that you have right now? Or it doesn't have to be a challenge, but something that you're working with or working toward.
Yeah. I am working towards a few things. Two things that probably most people are interested is total abundance. And I'm saying total abundance because abundance, how I defined it, is
not just about money.
It's totally not about money. Abundance is that connection to yourself that allows you to connect with the resources that you need when you need them. Exactly. And that may be a pen when you need it, Right? I'm like, oh, I found a pen on the street. That was exactly what I needed. Thank you. I'm so abundant, Or something breaks and someone comes and fix it. And you're like, I'm so abundant. I can manifest the resources I need when I need it.
Right.
So that's abundance, that connection. Total abundance would be to put that into a even higher state. Like, let's manifest it in the physical, even bigger, even more, so that it pours with ease, So that's something I'm working on. And there's another thing I'm working on, which is conscious relationships. And this is something a lot of people are working on as well.
Right.
Letting go of that old paradigm of I need someone, but I choose someone.
Right.
Who is whole and complete, and it feels easy, because we have so many belief systems that say we're here to grow together. It's relationships are not easy.
Right. It's about compromise.
Yes, it's about compromising something, sacrifice at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really looking into this. I've been looking into these programs. I've been, navigating this, scuba diving, this whole thing. Goodness.
Surfing.
Ooh, surfing the waves, big waves, small waves. Like, I'm a surfer.
Maybe. And just for viewers, I'm saying surfing because Javi's like a super, super good surfer. So I wanted to, from scuba diving, which feels harder, to surfing, which to her is like heaven, and it feels very and pleasant.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So those are the main areas that I'm looking at. And I probably, because the collective is also looking into those things as well. Those are the main two things that most people want to manifest in their lives.
Right. And I think it's super important, the two things that you brought up, because they're major ones that are, like you said, that are shifting for a lot of people. We're used to seeing abundance as simply having the financial abilities of buying things when we need them. But that doesn't even come close to what real abundance is. And we forget to look at all the other things. It's exactly, you're going and you're finding the parking spot that you need. Yeah, maybe that's a lame example. Or you are manifesting the perfect travel partner when you're on a long flight somewhere, and all of a sudden you're thirsty, and that moment is when the flight attendant comes in and offers you some water or something else. It's true abundance is amazing, and if we allow ourselves to even start looking at what that really is, then we're opening ourselves up to the possibility of creating it. When we're only focusing on money, maybe we do manifest some money depending on our resistances, but we're not manifesting true abundance, and in that way limiting ourselves in what we can receive.
I love, I, brilliant. Brilliant. This reminds me of a story. I remember I was at the airport in Bali. I was going to the US, and I had already like spent all my money. You know, you don't want to travel with money from another country, whatever. And I got to the airport and my flight got delayed. So I'm like in the line, I'm like, gosh, it's delayed. You know, I don't know if I'm going to make it, whatever. And I'm like, I sit down waiting because I had to wait like 2 hours. And I'm like, I'm so thirsty and I don't have any money. And I swear to you, I just look on my right and there was this bottle of water, sealed.
Sitting right next to you.
Sitting unsealed. So I'm like, what? And it's sealed? And I'm like, thank you, universe. You know, I'm taking this totally. This is abundance, you know. It's like, and then someone gave me money for food and like things like that. And then I went like, yeah, I think I had a business for free as well. I went on business because I asked the universe, like, that would be fun to fly on business. And suddenly I was flying on business. That's abundance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many examples of that. When you open yourself up to the possibility of that even happening, if you don't believe it's possible, it never will happen for you. And that's one of my biggest discoveries is you're closing the door if you don't think something is possible. And if you just allow yourself to play with it and saying, potentially it could be possible, I'm curious about it, you're already opening the door to allowing yourself to be shown that that is possible and to experience it. But if you completely shut the door by saying, no way, that can't happen, you can't. But why do that to yourself? How much are we willing to play and to open the door and allow the possibility that something could be possible? And then start finding more evidence that it actually is. It's amazing in those moments when you do and you're like, oh, that actually works. It's awesome.
You know, it's really beautiful how you describe these steps, because there are steps there. This opening, this curiosity, this like, oh, is it possible? You know, that's the first step, like this opening up. And then seeing the results, seeing like, oh my God, I asked for a chocolate and there it is, you know, someone gave me a chocolate. Oh, I can't believe it, you know, a parking lot. Really? Those small little things, they start watering this knowing or this new paradigm that I can live my life connected to the truth that I create my reality, that we are co-creating our reality. And then it becomes a knowing.
Right.
And that knowing is what you need, you know, or what makes things easier to manifest consciously. Eventually, you just need the knowing.
Right.
You just know it will come.
That's amazing. And you know what just came to me as we were talking about this is, I think one thing that really also facilitates the process for me is sometimes the idea, the understanding that we are not separate from our environment. We are our environment. And in that sense, when we realize that, is I can become anything I want. I can become that parking spot because I need it right now, but I am that parking spot. And to some people that might sound crazy and woo-woo, but obviously we are talking to people who are understanding that already and are looking for different ways to experiment with that so that they can themselves find the evidence that they need in order to support that. And when you see yourself as the plane, as the environment, as the water that you need and all of that, then they manifest so much more easily, as opposed to seeing, well, something outside of me somehow needs to manifest in order to fulfill a need or a desire that I have. You are that thing, all of it.
I think just step even farther, and I love it. I'm like, I'm taking that in, you know, I'm feeling that. I'm like, yes, this is even a little bit more, you know, it's like even not a little, like huge more.
Right. And to go back to the previous thing that you were talking about, the two things, one was abundance and the other one was conscious relationships. That just reminds me of a conversation that, part of a conversation that I had with my husband recently. I don't remember what we were talking about. And then he said, and then you won't need me anymore, but kind of in a sad way. And I just said, so you want to be needed? You need someone to need you? And that was, we kind of just both were quiet for a moment looking at this, because here was this big program that just came up that is very prevalent in our environment and among people, is that we there's a desire, conscious or subconscious or unconscious, to be needed. And if you're not needed anymore, you feel like you're not loved or you don't have a place in this relationship. You know, you even see posts that say, don't be with the person that blah blah blah, be with the person you can't be without. It's like, yes, you can be without anybody. And why are they promoting, whoever they is, basing our relationships on needs, when it's not the other person who can meet our needs? It's not. And I guess he had that fear of, and I said, yes, I won't. I don't need you now either, but I still want to be with you and I choose to be with you. Doesn't that mean a lot more? It's so much easier for someone to want to be with you when they need you, but when they don't, when they have the understanding that they can satisfy their every need and they still want to be with you, doesn't that mean so much more? Isn't that much more satisfying in a way?
That new paradigm, I believe, right, or is about I'm whole, I don't need you, but I choose you.
Right.
So I agree with everything you're saying, you know. And in order to create conscious relationships, we need to start with loving ourselves, to don't manifest from lack, but manifest from like, oh my God, if I was with someone, I'm amazing, I can be by myself, but if I found someone amazing and even be better than that than now, wow, that would be even more amazing.
Yeah.
So how can this get better kind of attitude?
Yeah, what you were saying about working on yourself and on ourselves, I remember one thing that I struggled with is, how do we not judge others? How do we not go into judgment? And it was really hard. You're looking and judgment comes in your head, and could be like little judgment, bigger judgment for all kinds of things. And it just, nothing that I tried worked. And then I remember for like 21 days, I did this exercise where what I was committing to was loving myself. Really, really, really loving myself. And all of a sudden, shockingly, I realized that that translated into everybody else. I was loving other people and not judging them. And I didn't even have to try not to judge them. So it was my own judgment toward me that I was projecting onto others and not seeing it. And I was going the wrong way around, trying not to judge them, when all this time I was actually judging myself. And that's why I was judging others.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that reminder. It's a really simple and powerful exercise and commitment.
And it's like, next time I judge someone, if I ask myself, how am I judging myself right now? Am I actually judging myself in a way? Does that have to do with me somehow? And in some cases it might not be, but still, when we have that self-love, it's very, very different of how we look at others too.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about our teachers and the people who have inspired us and have given us tools and all of that? Can you choose the three maybe most influential teachers that you've had in your life experience in this life, and give us like one thing, one of the biggest takeaways from each one of them.
Yeah, I will ask you the same question, by the way.
Oh no. I have to start thinking about it.
Yes. So my first teacher, my first awakening teacher, was my uncle. One of my uncles. He was, he was the person in my life that started talking about aliens to me, right? And about other realities and dimensions and the possibility of living without food, duality and light and dark and all these things. And I was fascinated, and something, I knew it was true. Like, wow, it just started this awakening. And we're still connected and collaborating together. It's amazing, actually. So that's my first teacher. My second teacher is a dear friend of mine, Amara from Bali. I just adore her heart. She has this amazing heart and wisdom and being integral. And she has taught me so many things that I cannot even put in words, but by example. So I love her work, and I love her teachings, and I love her presence. It's a very amazing presence, very loving. And my third amazing teacher is Inelia Benz, which is, when I know this for you, Inelia for you is also a very important teacher. She, is mind-blowing. It's a huge appreciation for her and her tools. She has created so many tools for other people to work on themselves and open, I would say our eyes, but I'll say, my eyes at least, to look into our own programs, to accelerate this process of becoming more aware, to empower ourselves. So huge gratitude.
Right.
What about you?
It will probably for me start with my father, because it starts with the family, like you said, your uncle. And one of the first and important things that he taught me, one is you can do anything, and the second one was when something doesn't work out the way you want it to, change something. You can't continue doing the same thing and expect to get a different result. And then I found out that that's later on in the years, I found out that there's a quote that's very similar to that, that's super famous and very, very wise. We can't expect different results by doing the exact same thing. There are so many other teachers, and it's hard for me. Inelia, of course, is by far the person who has empowered me and inspired me the most. And I don't know if I can choose just one thing that is by far the most important. One is you don't need suffering in order to grow. You don't need to learn or grow anything. You already are amazing, and you came in that way. And then looking at all of our programs and all of these things, and her embodying that graciousness and kindness in the way she teaches others. And she has so many tools that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. It's like it's a first. Usually there's things that you find in a lot of different places from a lot of different teachers. It's the nature of our existence, and even how we choose to die, or how we choose to reincarnate, or where we are, and why we make certain choices in life, and all of that. This is tremendously powerful. Another teacher, and there are many teachers, I don't even know who to just attribute that to, and Inelia, of course, says that, is that the only thing you really, really, truly need to be in life is yourself, and there's nothing else. And once you do that, everything else is just, it falls into place, but you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to try. You don't need to work toward it. You just need to be, and that's enough. And it's one of the biggest kind of sighs of relief that you have. All you need to do is be you, and you already are you, so you can relax and just start enjoying this ride. And that's when the struggle falls away and everything, and you can just, inhale, exhale, and move on kind of different, but better.
Wow. I like. Well, we should definitely post her website as well.
We will, yeah, and I can't recommend her enough. It's ineliabenz.com, and I can put that on the screen later on. There's so many tools that we still use. I'm sure Javi as well and I on a daily basis. Among what the biggest ones are the fear processing exercise and the firewall processing exercise. If there are two that I would recommend people start with, for me, these would be these two. Okay, do you want to play a little game where I would just do finish this?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to start a sentence, and you're going to finish it in whatever way you want.
I love how you say game, and I'm like, ooh, games, Yes, that's fine. Let's play a game. That's the innocence in our, of our essence, I guess.
Because it is a game, and that's one thing is, if I could say to people, is keep that playfulness and that sense of humor in life, because it's so much more fun. And why make things so freaking serious? Where's the joy in that? Where's the fun in that? I remember through some of my most difficult situations in life, what has really pulled me through has been a sense of humor and looking at things with, it's like, come on, it can't be the end of the world. And even if it is, I might as well just take it with a sense of humor and laugh about it, as opposed to being all dramatic. That doesn't feel so good.
Totally agree with you.
All right, so let's do this.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm nervous.
You can take time to think. These are like, they can be seen as profound questions or super simple and easy. All right. Yeah. Life is
a game.
A game. The world is
fun. That was the first thing that came to me.
The one thing that I want in life is
good question. One thing that I want in life is funny. Like, suddenly I had many answers, but I'm gonna pick ease.
Ease. Okay. The one thing I know for sure is
everything we're looking for is ourselves.
I am the happiest when?
Surfing.
Ooh. Okay. And I am?
Me.
Awesome. And if you have to share as a wrap up, by far the biggest piece of wisdom, if you could say it in a sentence or a few words to people that you own, that that you embody right now, what would that be?
I would like to share kind of almost, it's the slogan of my school, which is, you deserve everything just because you exist.
You're worthy.
Totally. Period. You're worthy. Why am I worthy? Because you exist. I haven't done that, or I should be taller, or whatever. No, it's enough. Yeah. You exist, and that's enough. And I think that's in Spanish it sounds very beautiful, actually. Mereces todo solo por el hecho de existir. And that's the main piece of advice. It would be, we're looking for ourselves. This is a game. As we have talked, we can create a beautiful life. It's possible to make our dreams come true. And let's do it together and have fun.
Yeah, and we don't need to do anything else to deserve it other than just be ourselves.
Allow that. Let's allow that. Let's create that. Let's allow that. And work through our resistances.
This is amazing, and it feels like a really, really good high note to end our conversation on. And I have enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would, and I knew it would be super fun.
Me too, I agree. I'm like, I know this is gonna be so much fun. I had so much fun from today in the morning. I'm like, oh, I have my interview, like, and now I'm like, oh, this was amazing. I love it.
Yeah, this is amazing. Do you just want to share your site and where people can find out more about you if they do speak Spanish and they want to come visit your site?
So I have two sites. One is my name, javieracorrea.com, which is in Spanish. And the other one is my school site, which is creacionconsciente.com. We'll put the contacts.
Yes, we will put them on the screen. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been so much fun, Javi. Thank you, and let's do this again. Guys, you deserve everything that you want simply because you exist, and all you need to do is just be yourself. If you take nothing else from this conversation, maybe you could take that. Kisses and hugs from both of us to everybody, and we'll talk again soon.